Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and right over there is Nikki Kinzer.
Yes, I am.
Hi,
I'm here, and you can hear me, and I can hear you.
Oh, Nikki, how are you?
Technical difficulties.
You did great.
You know?
You did great. You got your audio routed to all the right places. You're a shining example of tech support.
Yes, I had problems hearing Pete, but I figured it out on my own. Even though he was trying to do hand charades in video telling me what to do, I still figured it out. Because I thought you were telling me to stop in the name of love.
No, well, I do sometimes do that to people. But in this case, I was saying, press stop. And if you have to watch the live stream, if you're a member of our Patreon group, you can go back and grab the live stream because we do a great little song and dance.
Yes, we do.
There's a great song and dance. This is part 2 today of our conversation that we started last week. What do you want people to know about ADHD? We asked, and you told us loud and clear the things you think the world needs to know about your life with ADHD. I love this conversation. I love the responses we've received. Thank you so much for contributing. Before we jump in, head over to takecontroladhd.com. You can get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show right there on the website or subscribe to the mailing list on the homepage and get an email with the latest episode each week. You can connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD. And if anything that we have done over the last many years has impacted your life, we encourage you to consider supporting the show with your dollars over at patreon.com/The ADHD Podcast. There, you can access great workshops and worksheets that we're putting together just for patrons. You can get access to the Take Control ADHD Discord server where you can jump in and talk with people all over the world who live with ADHD. It is a fantastic group. We encourage you to jump on board and help us support the show, support yourselves with a fantastic community. Thank you, everybody, for if you've already jumped in and are doing that. We love having you join us on these live streams. Also, a perk of becoming a patron. Okay, Nikki, what do you want people to know about ADHD?
Well, first of all, October is ADHD Awareness Month.
So that's one.
That's one. And that's the reason why we are doing this show, this part 2 shows, because we had gotten such a great response from people that are listeners and followers on Facebook that really did want to tell people, what they wanted people, the outside world, to know about their ADHD. So this is part 2 because we had such a great response.
It is, and it's fantastic. So Facebook followers and patrons, thank you for jumping in and participating this week. And I guess we have no news. Let's just kick it off.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. You want to do the first one?
You want to take the first? You want me to do the first? I'll do the first one. All right, here we go. All right, from our listeners, using medication is not wrong. We all use some form of medication, allergy pills, Tylenol. Why should taking meds for ADD, ADHD be any different? You don't get to decide what is right for my family. We do. My kid likes his meds. He feels better on it. Why would I discourage that? I've been wearing glasses more. This is a med, right?
For sure. It's an accommodation, right, so you can see better.
It's an accommodation.
Yeah. Taking medication to focus and feel better about your day is not a bad thing.
Absolutely. This is so true. We live in shame when we are judged about these kinds of things, and you get to own you and your relationship with your children. You do you. I love that. I love that message. Don't judge those who have made decisions for their family that way.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So let's see. Oh, next one. We need a different way of engagement in classrooms. Oh, I 100% agree with this.
Talk about that.
Well, the school systems have been set up the same way for so long, and nobody thinks about the idea that maybe it's not so smart to keep a child in a school setting for 6 hours a day with just a couple of little breaks, 1 15-minute recess in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and a half-hour lunch that they have to speed through and eat really fast. It's frustrating. It's like, I wish that schools, this would be my ideal wish, is that they just set up the classrooms differently, and they walked around more, and they got to like get their hands on stuff and didn't just sit there watching a teacher in the front of the room with the little whatever it is computer screen. When back in the day, it was like a
it was like overhead transparency.
Yes, thank you.
And markers. Yeah,
and now they have the computer. But
we're not that old.
Well, it feels like it when you go into a current classroom and you see all the technology. But with that said, you still see all these desks lined in a row, looking at the front of the classroom, and it's frustrating. And then people take recess away as a punishment, and that's frustrating.
I have to shout out to a program that my daughter is lucky enough to be a part of right now, and it's a school in Beaverton School District called Terra Nova, and it's a part of a sustainability program. It's an integrated science curriculum, and it's actually the old for those who are local in Oregon and Portland area. You might remember the Bonnie Slope Elementary School, and Bonnie Slope was converted into this 4-acre farm a couple of years ago, and what they staff it with sustainability teachers, chemistry teacher, biology teacher, small staff of teachers, and kids in the high school programs can apply to a lottery to get chosen for their science credits out there. And these kids have built this farm, and then they harvest the fruits of their labor, and they go in and they do chemistry and biology projects on it, and they practice Socratic learning, and they are up and around, and they sit in circles, they stand up, they go out, they get dirty, they do every other day. She spends 4 hours outside learning applied biology on an actual farm, and it is one of the most, like, I look at it and I think, oh, first of all, what an amazing opportunity that the school district here has availed to these kids.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just an unbelievable gift that doesn't happen everywhere. But from an ADHD perspective, I walked out of there saying, I mean, she's just thriving. She is absolutely thriving because her brain is engaged, because her hands are engaged. It's different every 15 minutes. She's doing something different with herself, and she comes back and she is always able to integrate something new that she walked away with in a substantive way. Mm-hmm. I'm just so proud and deeply blessed to be in an area that has a sport like, and it draws from multiple schools, right? Because it pulls from all of the different major high schools in the area. So she's integrating with different people. Yeah. It's just a whole different way of learning. It's fantastic. So
I wish that was a trend.
In that spirit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think it is. I honestly think it is, and I think it's something that's getting that's gaining traction. I mean, it's certainly. It's growing rapidly, and I know there is talk of how they can continue to expand the program. So here's hoping you can find those programs in your neck of the woods.
Well, and I think it also depends on the teachers. I know that my daughter had a couple of teachers, one in particular, who did make sure that the kids stood up. And they would do yoga, and she had like nice scents, throughout the day. And so she did her best, I think, to try to make it a calming and active place. So yeah, it depends on the teacher too, but it's frustrating. And I agree. I think that, we do need to have a different way, but here's hoping.
Here's hoping.
So what's next?
Well, next we have a bundle. We have 3 different ones right in a row here that we will. Want to do these separately?
Yeah, they're not all from the same person, but they're all having to do with kids.
Okay, so continuing a theme. Here we go. I'm going to just knock these out right in a row, and then we can talk about them. Number 1, just because you have ADHD doesn't mean you are stupid, nor that you are incapable. Kids with IEPs think that, and it's not true. Actually, it is the opposite in most cases. Footnote on IEPs. Just because they have ADHD doesn't mean they're bad kids. They try the best to control themselves. My son tells me sometimes he just can't stop his brain. And number 3, my 17-year-old daughter just scored a 34 on her ACT and has an IQ of 138. However, she also has ADHD and a GPA of 2.7 because she struggles with assignments. The discrepancy is almost unheard of. A fascinating set of a fascinating, though not actually unheard of, set of behaviors there.
So Gal actually replied back to her and said, that's known as being twice exceptional. And that paradox is frustrating and completely misunderstood by the outside world. But she is also nothing less than amazing. And I thought that was a really nice thing to say.
Absolutely. We parents and educators and particularly special ed folks who work in these programs can do better in selling the IEP and the 504 process to kids as a thing that, if the kid is cognizant of what the program is, then we can sell it better as an opportunity and not a punishment. Because I think that is sadly true, that kids see it as when they get pulled out of class for special work,
right.
When they get isolated. I mean, ADHD is already isolating enough. This is where that feeling starts. It starts right here in school where you feel alone. But I wanted to add something I saw on CBS Sunday Morning a couple of weeks ago, and I'll post a video in Discord in the show notes. It was on companies. They did a whole profile on companies that are hiring for a whole different set of skills. And in this case, they profiled like Microsoft and IBM and these companies who are hiring autistic folks who are on the spectrum. And it was fascinating because they are getting rid of all of the charisma requirements, right? You go in and you are tested on skills that you have and that you could contribute, and you're not tested on how likable you are anymore. Like that stuff is just gone in the job interview. It's just gone. And I couldn't help but reflect on it. And I wanted to share it here for folks to watch and see what kinds of ideas you can take back to your place of employment about helping to change the way we look at this job interview process and not and how it could evolve from something that is, charisma based to something that really affects skills. How could ADHD be included in that basket of interview requirements?
I like that. I'll have to check it out.
Worth watching.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's like that's your Sunday morning thing, isn't it? To watch CBS.
I have a little ritual. Yeah. A little coffee.
Yeah.
CBS Sunday Morning with my wife and my dog.
That's so
and
nice.
The kids are asleep and the house is quiet. Yeah. Lights on low. The big Jane Pauley comes into my living room.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And that trumpet sounds again. All right. The next one we've got here, another one for you. This is your turn.
It's not something you have as a child and just grow out of as an adult. And that's very, very true.
Hallelujah. Amen.
Yes. In fact, many adults don't even find out that they have it until they're adults. And they found out in marriage counseling, like you.
I don't know anything about that.
Or they find out because their child was diagnosed. And then they look at the testing and they're like, I fit a lot of these boxes, and they find out. So, yeah. I agree. I don't think it's something you grow out of. And I think that it does and can look different at different times in your life. And that has to do with coping strategies. I think that definitely, is where you are stress level, are you comfortable versus like going right into a new job, just getting married? I mean, transitions are difficult. And so you got to look at that and know that it's going to look different at different times in your life.
Well, yeah. And, I'm a big fan of hanging a flag on context switching and micro and macro contexts. Like you say, these big life transitions is very difficult. And the little ones,
they're just as hard
from
too.
Breakfast to work, they're just as hard.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. But I often think on this point, I read this and I thought, this is so true. ADHD is a constant lifelong game of whack-a-mole, Just as soon as you figure out an accommodation for this one, you slam it down and you beat the mole, something else comes up that you just didn't even think of. It's like, they're constantly impacting one another. Accommodations and symptoms are constantly impacting one another. And the where that comes back into the cycle of anxiety is it's a never ending sort of, I don't want to get into like war language, but it's a never ending journey to solve that one. It's tough.
It's interesting you say that because, I relate to that with my anxiety. It's like, okay, I've got something, I feel good about something, and then I'm not worried about that anymore. But then something else pops up and I'm like, oh, crud. Now I'm going to ruminate about this and think about this. And and then something else. I mean, yeah. I get that. I get the
Yeah.
whack-a-mole. I do.
Exactly.
Stupid moles.
Stupid moles. Here's another one. You can have ADHD all your life and not be diagnosed until your 40s. It's not just for kids. You don't grow out of it. The anxiety is real. Well, it's like they were listening to us.
Right?
Yes. All of those things are true.
We agree.
Let's just barrel into this other one, can we?
Yes, please.
I wish there was a way for the world to temporarily experience ADHD to have a better understanding. People who have it or experts understand it. Neurotypicals have a hard time understanding it. And I just say that's part of the reason we want to do this show.
Yes.
This is just our little effort to showcase this is what it's like to have ADHD. These are the things we think about that potentially neurotypical folks don't think about.
Well, and something else I would want to add to that is, remember we did a show about when we're not feeling supported, and we talked about a couple of ways to respond to people that maybe don't believe in ADHD or don't understand it. And we would say what you had some kind of reference to it. It's a marketing thing where, I would say, yes, I used to think that way too. And then I found
feel, felt, found.
Yeah, feel, felt, found.
Yeah.
And
I understand how you feel. I felt that way. I found.
And so I hope also that the show sheds some light. And then I also hope that it gives our ADDers a voice that they're comfortable with to also talk about it in a way that's not uncomfortable or shameful for them. That it's just something that they, that yes, they have, but this is how, they don't even have to have a but. I hate that word, yeah. Do you get it? You understand what I'm saying here?
I get it. I totally do. Yeah, that's it.
All right.
Next one's yours.
That it is an incredible struggle every day. If you do not have it, it's next to impossible to ever fully understand it. And none of us wants unsolicited advice on what will fix that problem. Every single one of us is incredible, talented, and can see far outside the box that we've all been placed in. I really like that last sentence.
I know. That's beautiful. And so true. And that's kind of a theme, right? We don't want the unsolicited advice. We don't want what was last week's. We don't want the moms groups judgments.
Right. Well, and I think that when somebody says fix the problem, then it's saying that you need to be fixed, and that's not the case. That's not how it works. Right. Nobody here needs to be fixed.
Because again, it all presumes that we don't know.
Right.
And we all know.
But just one more thing about that last sentence is that last sentence I love because it is highlighting the strengths, and that's what we want to keep highlighting as well.
The next one, I love this one. How exhausting and how much concentration and effort it takes to deal with your mind and body going a million ways and try to slow your roll to appear so-called normal and then still get in trouble for talking or not paying attention, etc. Quit discouraging me when I try so hard and give me a pat on the back. I'm hard enough on myself. Oh, yeah. Yes, we're all hard enough on ourselves. And the problem is the mental energy it takes to live in this space is one thing. The mental energy it takes to recuperate from these feelings is like this meta complication that it just takes so much to tell yourself how good you are and how strong you are and how safe you are. And even when it feels like you have to lie to yourself, it's hard. I'm hard enough on myself.
Yeah. Good thing to let the world know.
Next one's yours.
That just because I appear to have it together doesn't mean I don't have ADHD. It means I am working really hard and all my systems are working for me today. I love that. Today is a good day.
I was thinking about that, and I almost feel like I should, I don't know if I'm brave enough to do this, that I should take a picture of my desk, which looks awesome today.
Yeah.
And then pan to the closed closet doors that are like right here. Because when you open these doors, it's the metaphor for the rest of everything. I mean, stuff, you got to be careful because stuff will come piling out. Like that's where my distraction lives. Mm-hmm. And right now my desk is beautiful. That I so deeply relate to this. Mm-hmm. And I think I get it because I've been working for years to try to figure this out and put so many, this just web of accommodations in place to to attempt to mitigate these things. And they fall apart right in that closet.
It is interesting you say that, because I thought about you when I read this, because I thought, Pete has so many things in place, when you look at like how you do your workflow and your time and your schedule but I've also witnessed days where you feel down, or you're just feeling like this sucks, this isn't working, and so when I saw this, I thought about you, because yes, you can have all the systems and have a great day, but it doesn't mean that you don't have ADHD. So kudos to you and this writer, because you have the systems in place. That's wonderful.
Well, yeah, it's
whether they work all the time.
Very fragile. Yeah.
But that's a good thing, because
fragile network.
We've talked about that too. Like consistency isn't always the basis of success. I mean, we got to look at other things too. So anyway, love it.
2 more here to wrap us up. Building on what others have said, this is not about never being able to focus, but that it's selective, not intentionally selective, but legitimately neurologically selective, and that the curse of inconsistency. I feel like this is key, because people may think it's an excuse, or that we're not trying hard enough, or that we don't care enough, but that's seldom the case. There are things I've been struggling with for years that affect others, and I desperately want to get a handle on them, but just can't seem to. I'll keep on trying, though. And finally, what do you want the world to know about ADHD? That it's real, that it can be an advantage in the right setting, 300 times more likely to be entrepreneurs, that an appropriate medication can lessen the likelihood of attempts to self-medicate later in life. A combination of approaches is best.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's the last one we have on the list. How do you feel?
Well, I mean, I think that going back to what we've talked about, in the first comment that you said, I think it's hard because people think that it's intentional, and it's not intentional. And, I hope that the people that are being educated listen to that, that they understand that this takes a lot of mental energy and a lot of work and a lot of focus, and they are trying. And I like that the person says that they're going to keep trying. I mean, that's what we got to do. We got to keep trying. The last one, I like this too, because I think this kind of leaves us a little bit on a more positive note, is that, you can live a happy, joyous, fulfilled life with ADHD, and that's really the bottom line that I think you and I always try to do with our podcasts and the work that we do, is show people that there's hope, there's ideas, there's support, there's resources, and, being part of the community and spreading what we know about ADHD, and hope that our community will spread it to the world as well. That's what these shows are about.
That's what these shows are about. And it's a real joy to read these things, even the downers, even the ones that remind me personally of, the space that I exist in that sometimes is unpleasant. It's a reminder that we're not alone. We're not. It's why we've been doing the show. It's why we hope to continue to grow this community, because there's such value in solidarity and in, sharing this message as a group. So thank you. Deep thanks to everybody who has participated by sending in your thoughts, by shouting from the rooftops what you want the world to know about you and your ADHD. This has been a real treat. I think that's it. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. You don't have anything else to share with the people. Thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to this show. We appreciate your time and your attention. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next week right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.